things that would support what I'm talking about with regards to the feminine process is typically, you know, we have books out, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and, you know, the right brain is the feminine and conceptualization, and left brain is literal, linear space and time dictation exists there, things like structural, things like that. When I found my 25 to 5, I also realized it's the element of creation, photosynthesis, Big Bang. And so that feminine process, which exists within all of us, is also right brain. So when I started discovering and working in cognitive neuroscience and the physiology and clinical psychology, what I did with Physicology is put it into a place to where it's always a collaboration between right brain and left brain, but right brain comes online first. It's also where the blueprint to the body is. So the feminine / conceptualization is always first. It's our walking scanner right here. You know, our recording device is left brain, hierarchy, right, wrong, good, bad. It's really a part of our reptilian animal brain, where the other part of our brain I believe to be angelic, where the feminine comes from, our conceptualization, quantum spiral, chaos theory. These are the concepts that guide our body initially. So what is the part that the cohesive component to that? Excuse me, what I believe is it's our selected choice of behavior. What do we choose to do about things? How do we choose to be within that? What's our intention, and are we aligned authentically with what choice of behavior we are making at the time? You see, I believed that I was a loving person, but what came out was so very different than my intention. I didn't know what was creating that. And in my discovery and my exploration, these are the components that led to what I now call my Physicology. I do believe that it's important. In psychology, we have something called scope of practice. And, you know, in coaching, we don't have the legal licensure or the specific structure to the degree that medical and or psychological communities currently have. And so what I believe to be true with this is it's our responsibility as coaches to really define our line of demarcation for ourselves. What I'm doing right now, which is sharing about myself, some of the experiences that I have, and how, and what, you know, then you get the opportunity to take what you need and leave the rest, or ask questions about it, or, you know, we can do a collaboration, maybe share your own experiences and see what we can do moving forward. I would like to, at this point, because I do work more that way, is open it up if anybody has questions or if they'd like to make comments and put things in the middle so that we can combust something out of that.
So I'm going to jump in. So thank you, Michael, for that overview. And I think it's, on one hand, it's a little dense because there's so much background and training and different aspects, like you said, the physical training and the psychology and the therapy and the everything. But on the other hand, you know, for me, having been familiar with it, it all like meshes together beautifully. But the thing I would like to ask you to delve into a little more, because I had mentioned you have your workbook that people can download. So where did that come from, and what purpose does that serve? Like, how does that workbook help someone, and how does that help you work with them?
Okay. Well, you know, in this conversation, I just kind of shared a bunch of personal experiences, not ones that we would share in daily conversation typically, or some of them maybe not. We would consider them in society more private, right? I came from a place early on where, without getting into details, I did not know that I was a victim of sexual molestation. For many, many, many years, I was 21 years old in a group therapy, listening to somebody else read a letter to her dead grandfather before I even recognized, oh my God, this was something that I could associate and relate to. So the workbook is set up, I've sectioned it as body, mind, soul. So for example, rather than saying, do you have a soul? I ask the question, are you a soul? because I want people to think about things. I want people to really cultivate their inner experience, which gives us the opportunity to set up our own self-structure and sense of self. You know, the reason I did this is because I had none, right? In my early relationships, I would take you hostage, be hyper attentive to what you were doing and how you were doing it, because I thought I was you. I didn't know that I was separate from you, right? And it's like we think about that, and it's like, you know, we can talk about it as enmeshment, or codependent is a term that gets tossed around quite a bit, and we have some understanding of that. No, I had no understanding that I wasn't you, and that's why my aggression to investment in what you were doing and how you were doing it was so strong, right? So in the workbook, I want to give people a private opportunity to sit there and cultivate themselves and ask themselves some questions, rather than, you know, opening themselves to other people if they're not ready to do so, and or give them an opportunity to think a little bit prior to doing that, right? And see if I can stimulate some ideas within them based on that come from my experience. And, you know, I jokingly tell people that, you know, I signed up for the Human School for Slow Learners because I needed really big lessons to come to a beginning of understanding of some of these dense concepts that you brought voice to. So that would be first and foremost what I'd like to have people derive from it.
Thanks for explaining that, because I think, you know, some of the people wouldn't have gone to the website or seen the workbook yet. So I wanted to make sure there was some context of kind of what it is and what purpose it serves. I'm getting a notice saying I have unstable internet, so I apologize if I'm going in and out. But Lindsay's the only one I can see on camera other than Michael. Did you have any questions you want to jump in? Because I have some more questions, but I don't want to dominate.
Not at the moment. I'm honestly just kind of taking it in.
Okay. So one of the things that I've learned in my coaching practice, which Lindsay will know, she's at the same school, is it's a lot of presence and awareness. And I have definitely learned that, and this is something that Michael and I have talked about previously. We have a little bit of a difference of opinion, but we were taught to really get out of your head and get into your body. And the more I do the work of, you know, getting out of the conscious, you know, I'm in my head, I have my mind is swirling like crazy. It's all thinking, and kind of dropping down into kind of the gut and into the intuition and into like all the things that you know. And that's where I will realize like, oh, there's some stuff. Oh, it's been here a long time. Oh, what is it? Oh, I have to identify it. Like, how do I give it a name? Like, how do I kind of talk to it and let it have a voice? And that has led to kind of some profound breakthroughs for me. And a lot of it is some of that old stuff. So when you talk about the body kind of encoding, you know, the message from the mind, I just want to see if kind of the language that I was taught from my coach training, do you feel that that's like a parallel, or are they in opposition? You know, what do you have to say about that?
Well, what you just said, I think it was beautifully put. You know, that Physicology does have it. I shared more personal tonight, but there is a technical component to it right here in the medial frontal lobe. It's a walking scanner. So we have ports in our shoulders, our elbows, our wrists, our knees, our ankles, our hips. And so we miss nothing is the point of that. So think of it this way. If as human beings, we can create infrared scanners and other types of scanners, we can't create something that we don't already have, right? So the way I see the external world is an extension of what already exists within humanity. So that being said, this is a scanner. We miss nothing. We bounce out neurons and they come back in right here as a chemical key. It's called ligand. So a Ligand chemical key, they come back in each shape and size based on what we're scanning, including people and including what people carry with them neurologically. It happens faster than light speed, and so it travels through something called the anterior cingulate. It drops down into the body, combusts with the opiate receptor of the cell, and that combustion travels back up. We contextualize it in the limbic system, and it comes out, and that is the neurological process of emotion. So it comes out as our view, and that keeps moving, and that is constant, faster than light speed, so that we have things like touch, feel, smell, hearing. That's the structural component. So when you go to my Physicology page, you'll see an Infinity 8 in the image of it. That's what the Infinity 8 is, right? So that's a basic premise. If people know no more about neurology than that, recognize that there is a scientific structural process behind it. And over top of that is where we download our experience. So the hard drive, what I believe to be true, we come in with all human before us and our own experience that we've come in to download into our body, and then we create it, right? So all of the traumatic affects that I shared about my early life were downloaded into my body, and then my life has been about bringing them conscious and putting meaning to them, right? And that particular process is what I believe we all do. And, what does that mean? Well, collaborations, we can look in society. None of us can get past our own perspective. None of us can. Like I can talk to you about yours, like you said, that we have a difference in some ways. I'd be curious as to what that is, because I love that stuff. That shows me that you are thinking and that you have some structure with yourself that I find to be vital, right? Because these are the things that are collaborative. That's what I mean by the space between. Where I don't go is to compete with you with that. I find that, we'll call it the feminine or receptivity of hearing you, is vitally important if in fact I've done my homework and I know where my self-structure is, right? So I guess we could call that self-security or, contribution, whatever you want a word you'd like to put on it. That's how I see the neurology of the space between.